Did you buy one of these portable washing machines and you're having problems with it? If so, come along with me and see if we can diagnose the issue. My particular issue with this machine is every time it rinses, it sounds like somebody's beating metal inside of the machine, so I'm guessing that it's the water pump. So we'll have to take apart that and come along if you're, nervous about this because you can't find any information. I'm in the same boat, so let's try and see if we can fix it. Here you go. Pay attention to the model, the XQB40418B. The name brand doesn't matter. What I found out through a little bit of research is that they're all made in China and the names are just whatever for the local market. I'm guessing this was intended for maybe the Russian market or Slavic or something. But anyways, it's starting to make noise whenever it's draining, and it sounds like something is rolling around in there. You can see from the back, these don't change. Maybe in international markets this is a plug for a different country, but what I found out is you just take that and that screw. They're just self-tapping screws into plastic. Then you just have to lift it off. It's kind of just hooked in there with screens so you can get access to that, to the back of the panel. And there's no manuals, there's no service on these things. You notice that there's kind of this, it almost looks like hot glue, but I'm guessing it's some kind of like urethane glue, kind of like what they use in America is called Gorilla Glue. It's kind of that expanding foam glue, urethane based. So a lot of the glue joints are glued in. That's glued in, even though it's got this kind of retainer. This is your pump, and this is what we need to get out. But it looks like this one, and I've looked at this earlier, and this one are actually glued in. So we're gonna have to pull this out. And if we look at the bottom, all of this can be done pretty much with a number 4 Phillips. So if we pull this out, there's just 2 screws that hold it in. And it just pops off. There's no information, like I said, there's no information on service agreements or service manuals or anything, but give you a good look of what this water pump is. That should help. And so when you look at the back of this, I've already had this off a little bit, but you'll see since this is glued, since the inlet and the outlet, or the inlet and the outlet are glued in to this housing bracket, that this is a kind of an impeller based system. You can tell by the shaft and the motor that there's a permanent magnet motor in there. So if we look, there's 4 Phillips head screws. Alright, I got the screws out, and well, that was easy. Apparently it was a nickel. So this is those screws are not very tight in this. Do not over torque them, because I'm sure that you'll warp this head. And you can see there is a gasket here. There is this protective shaft that, here, let's see if I can do this. Let me get this water out of here. So you can see inlet and outlet is just, if we focus, it's just a shaft, or an impeller housing, I should say. And then we have the impeller, which should spin a little bit freely. That is, I don't know, 75% or 75 degrees of free spin before it rotates over. You can hear it. So there's this housing. Let me see if I can get it out. When you pull it out, obviously this is a magnet. There's an impeller and a shaft, and you have this O-ring, and that O-ring is designed to hold this down. Otherwise it'll flop around. So what you do is you make sure that this O-ring is, one, if you haven't done this, if this is several years old, you're going to want to lube all of these to make sure that they stay supple, which is something that I'm going to do in just a little bit. I'd recommend, because it's pretty stable stuff, I use Super Lube. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my hands. You can see where I put the O-ring. And that's, again, to make sure that this housing stays kind of in the same spot that it's supposed to, so that this doesn't rock back and forth, as you can see. Let's see if I can do it. You can see that that housing, or that shroud I should say, can move on the impeller, and what you want it to do is stay down away from the impeller while the impeller is spinning. So that's where you put that. Obviously we have another O-ring seal here. I'm going to put some Super Lube on that, and then we put this back together. Alright, this O-ring has been lubed and put back in its proper place. This seal lube around the housing has been sealed, and now what you want to do is press this down. Here, let's see if I can. I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to press this down on both sides, but I need my hands to do it. I'll show you, because you see it's up a little bit. There. Now you can see that there is a little bit of a gap between this shield, to make sure that nothing gets in between the impeller and the housing, so that it would beat it up, like, let's say, a nickel or any smaller debris. What I did was I pulled this impeller shaft out, and I showed you guys I pulled it out, but I actually cleaned inside of the motor housing, the plastic in here. Just used my finger, non-abrasive things, to clean it out, because the water is going to eventually collect stuff. So this is a fairly new motor, but if it's been in service for a couple years, we have soft water here, so I'm lucky you don't see any scale or buildup. But if we had hard water, you're a different part of the country. I've lived in very hard water places, or this may have scale or build up over the years, so it'd take a little time, and pull this impeller out and pull this housing out and clean it up. If you need to use vinegar for hard water or something like that, just make sure you're not using any. Use something soft. Make sure that this spins freely. You can see, watch. Let's see if we can get that. So, spins free. This housing shroud is not coming up. Everything's good. Now, I just need to remember how this goes in. And you can see that hole, and that hole, and that hole, and that hole, are all the ones where the screws are. So you make sure that you orient it correctly, so that the bracket will fit on the holes on the other side. And I'll get this back together, and we will. I think that's about it, really. Well, it's about to. Oh, there we go. So it looks like the water is exiting, and we're not having any crazy noises coming from the water coming out. So looks like it's running, and we're just finishing up the load. So thanks for watching, and tune in for the next video. Thanks.